How many times have you set New Year resolutions only to give them up 1 or 2 months after you set them up? We all want to live better, healthier, and happier lives, so why is it so damn hard to stick to habits that are actually good for us? What is it that makes people give up on their goals, and what is it that they can do, that you can do, that can actually help you keep the habits you want to keep and get the goals that you want to get? You see, while we say we want to achieve a goal, why we set ourselves up for a particular outcome that we want to create, say, by the end of the year or by end of a couple of months, what tends to happen is there's a dissociation between where we want to be versus where we are and how we see ourselves for where we are right now. Because of everything that happens in our lives at all times, we form an identity of ourselves. You may have created an identity, oh, I'm a hard worker. You may have created an identity, oh, I'm an anxious person. You may have formed an identity, oh, I come from a poor background, so I don't know if I can be rich. And each of these identities are very near and dear to us. It almost defines us as who we are. And because of the stronghold and the strong belief that we have in our current identity, when we are about to make progress towards the goal, when we are about to make progress towards a new habit, this identity starts to challenge that growth. You see, when you move towards a new goal, a new habit, your current identity is disrupted. Say, for example, you say, hey, I am somebody who is not wealthy, and that's your identity because, say, you came from a poor background. The moment you start to take action towards creating wealth in your life, your internal identity is going to fight against it because every molecule in your body wants to hold on to this identity that you have. If you have been overweight for much of your life, you may have an identity associated to your weight. And because you have an identity association to your weight, it would be harder for you to create a new habit that may shed the weight. Any identity that anybody has, you have, I have, anybody else has, is something that we created, mostly unconsciously. The reason why it's unconscious is because it got created because of circumstances that happened around us, people around us, our colleagues, our friends, and so on and so forth. We just kept borrowing these experiences from life, and we said, okay, that's my identity, right? We started to say, I like somebody else's life because grass is greener on the other side, and so I want that. And so you borrowed that identity for yourself. And what happens with borrowed identity is because it's very unconscious. We never actually made the decision if we like that identity, or we were just borrowing because it sounded cool or it looked cool on the outside, but was out of alignment with us. So the first exercise to change your identity is to identify what's the true identity for you that you want to create. Again, there is the ultimate true identity, which is who you truly are, which may take years to discover. But something that you can immediately do is you can define what's the identity you want to have. An easy way to define your new identity is to understand what your goals are and how aligned you are to these goals and see what person will achieve those goals. Let me explain further. Say, for example, you want to make $100,000 this year. Right? So you want to write down, my goal is $100,000 this year. The reason why I want to create it is because I want to take care of my family and I want to have these experiences in my life. Great goal. Now what you want to find out is who is the kind of person from your understanding of life will be creating $100,000 a year in your career, in your job, in your business, in your coaching career, or whatever that is the career that you're pursuing. So as you ask that question, you will start to see there are certain things that you need to develop as a skill to become the identity of the person that makes $100,000 a year. You see how it works? So first step is to identify what is a true goal for you, something that gives you satisfaction and joy, not just for the material gain of the world, but actual experience of life. Identify that goal and then reverse engineer the kind of person who will achieve that goal and make this your new identity. And the way to make this your new identity is to remind yourself every single day to be in alignment with this new identity. Take actions in alignment with this new identity. So while we found foundationally identity resists change, our personal identity that we have found for ourselves right now resists change. What we also found is psychologically we are at no advantage. You see, our brains are wired for gratification. Our brains want to be satisfied as quickly as possible. This is why when you see something that has sugar in it, and if you were as a child always wired to have an association of satisfaction or joy with sugar, let's say because you enjoyed birthday cakes and birthday cakes were fun and so cakes were fun, you will find yourself that anytime you see a piece of cake and you eat a bite of it, you'll feel a certain level of gratification. And that is how our brain is wired. Our brain is wired for gratification. Anything that makes it feel comfortable, we want to do that first. Now, when you're trying to build a new habit, guess what you're doing? You're resisting what makes you feel comfortable. Say you want to build a new habit about asking for more money than what you currently get. Well, it's not comfortable to asking for more money. It may be beneficial for you long term, but it's not comfortable. And because of that, your brain kicks in and settles for what you can easily get as a payment for your service, for example, because it wants to be gratified. It wants to be satisfied. It wants to be comfortable. What if we turn that gratification engine in our favor? What if we said, I'm going to assign myself small, tiny tasks, small, tiny changes every day, and when I achieve these, I will do a gratifying activity, something that gives me joy, that gives me satisfaction in that moment, or I will use the act of doing the activity, doing that new habit, that small, tiny habit change that I'm doing, I will use that to check it off as a marker. I will literally physically check it off on a paper because it gives me gratification. So your mind is getting the gratification that it wants to do something. And you're creating a conscious system that actually is in alignment with the identity you're creating. So while your identity is resisting change, while your psychology is resisting change, your body is also resisting change. Now, this may be more true when you have a health condition or when you have a health challenge or when you're trying to bring about a health challenge. You say your body wants to be comfortable and it's comfortable where it's at right now. Will it be more happy? Will it be more expressive if you had a different body stage? Yes, potentially, but for how your body sees it, it just wants to be where it is, right? It wants to go into homeostasis. It wants to be in a place where it feels it's balanced. It's where it was always. See, our physical body is needed to do all these different changes that we want to bring about in their life. If you want to work a little harder, you need to move your body. If you want to have a particular kind of lover, you need to take those actions with your body. If you want to have a particular kind of body, you want to go out and do those actions in the physical space to burn the fats and carbohydrates and so forth. You need to be able to make those decisions and to be able to create those movements. And so you need your body. Now, there is no other way to really change your physical body than to create movement and be mindful of your nutrition and your deficiencies. Most of us go see a physician or a doctor's clinic when we feel sick. And very rarely do we go to a nutritionist, very rarely do we go to a physical instructor. Very rarely do we go to a physician that actually optimizes, not fixes. A physician that is designed to give you pills when you're in pain is only going to give you pills when you're in pain. They're never going to look at overall comprehensive your body and say, hey, here are certain deficiencies that you have, which if you fix, you will never get into pain. Here is what your DNA suggests. Here is what you should be doing to help you live more longer, be more vital, create more energy in your life. Here are some of the foods you need to avoid. Here are some of the foods that you need to take. And here is some of the movements, the type of movement that will be most beneficial to your body. Now, I'm not saying you need to go take a deep dive straight away with a high-end professional that can do all of that, but some of the few things that you can do are these. Firstly, look at what you eat in a day. What is it that you're eating in the day, and how much of it is good, healthy, nutritious food that comes from whole foods, that is close to nature, and how much of it is artificial? If there's a lot of artificial food in your diet, well, first step would be to stop eating or at least reduce eating how much artificial food you want to eat. And the second step would be, how do we create a nutritional palate and eat foods that actually fuel our body? And that's the big mind shift that you need to bring. Food is not to satisfy our taste buds. While that may be a good thing to do, the real benefit of food is it fuels us. And if you look at food as fuel, you will start to see which food actually acts as fuel and which food actually takes away energy from your body. Another quick tip is, even if you cannot do heavy workouts, walk for 30 minutes. It's really good for mind, it's really good for your soul, and it definitely helps your health. And then comes our belief structures. We found that all of us have created certain beliefs about life. We've created beliefs around money, relationship, health, performance, so on and so forth. Everything, there's a set of beliefs. But these beliefs actually create what we call internal set points. Internal set points are like how you would set a temperature on a thermostat. You will set the temperature on a thermostat, And what will happen is that your room's going to go to that temperature and then it's going to stay there, right? That's how our internal set points work as well. And because of that capability that we've defined for ourselves, now anytime we try to pass that capability, we just find ourselves completely distraught. We can put as much work into that particular thing, but we tend to always get the same result. So if you are somebody that has had an experience of, I'm working twice as hard, but I'm still making the same kind of money, well, you're probably hitting an internal set point. And this is a little bit more psychological. These set points have been set by all the conditioning that has happened around you, by the surroundings, the people, the friends that you have. And so you have a certain set point, a certain standard that you've set for yourself, and you could do as much work. You will not be able to get more results. You can make as much effort, you're not able to get past that set point. So there may be a possibility that if you're not able to achieve your goals and build new habits, it could be because you have some internal set points that are just there and they're constantly there. And so every time you try to get past it, you can't really get past it. And the first step to change your set point is to understand that that's your set point and that's okay. Is to know your set point, accept your set point, and then set a new set point. Our society, people around us, our friends, our family, don't really need to define our set points. We can define our set points. And when we start to believe that, we can start taking action towards it. And while your identity, your mind, your body, even your psychology may be set against you, one of the biggest challenges that one may be experiencing is the fickleness of our emotions. You see, we can change pretty quickly the first 4 things that lead you to not be able to build new habits and achieve your goals. But the last one is something that you need consistent work on. And that is your consistent change in emotional states. You see, emotions are influenced consistently and constantly by factors that are around us. And sometimes factors that are happening within us because of the external factors that are around us. A lot of times when you are in a particular place and somebody says something, your emotional state changes. And when your emotional state changes, you react to the emotional state. You react to what's happening in that circumstance in context of where you are and how your emotions are showing up. And because of that, you could be making tremendous progress across all the other 4 elements, but just the emotional management and the emotional state might take you all away from all the progress you may make. Let me give you an example. You may be making all the progress on every other thing, and then somebody comments on your car, or somebody cuts you off in traffic, or somebody comments on your love life, and suddenly your emotional state changes. And because of this change in emotional state, you go back into a habit that you were otherwise trying to go away from. And so these emotional states and emotional management of these states is vital for us to be able to create these amazing habits and achieve all the goals that we want in our lives. To manage emotions better, it's important you have practices around anxiety, fear, and stress. It is estimated 30% of all adults experience some kind of anxiety, fear, and stress in their daily life. And that's just in the US, which is why it's so important for us to know how to identify and how to work through any anxiety that we may be experiencing. Which is why in this video, I'm going to show you how you can coach yourself through an anxiety loop that you might be in. See you there.